sometimes I may feel like I'm in the back burner,
Right.
but it's not really that. It's we're evolving as humans, which is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
So yeah, you're marrying the unknown, and you know, again, like, how do men deal with that? How do women deal with that? So it's never a thing where it's just a one script, one blueprint. You're continuously trying to figure things out, communication, and I want to have real conversations about how people deal with these things.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to Inside the Mind Ep1. It's finally here. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this, and I got a very, very important and special guest here today. Somebody I would like to call a mentor, is a big pillar in the bodybuilding community. Went pro 2016, first pro win 2017 at the prestigious Tampa Pro, which I hope to one day be up there. Has 4 pro wins, 1 international. If I recall right, that was last year in Mexico, right?
Yeah, it was.
I remember you was lights out. I remember that. Yeah, man. None other. Oh, and 3 Olympians and 1 in his rookie year. By the way, that's no slight. None other than Antoine Weatherspoon. Welcome to the pod, man. How you feeling?
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. I'm feeling great, man. Feeling blessed. Managing life as best we can, and just trying to continue to grow. So.
Absolutely. You mentioned managing life, man. Well, I definitely want to get into that as far as, again, the mental health aspect. And that's what, Inside the Mind is. Like, a lot of people look at the bodybuilding community and people in it as, we're supposed to be these stone, rock hard people that don't have emotions. But little do they know, man, we go through a lot just to have that 15 seconds of fame on stage, right? So whether life doesn't stop for us, we have to continue and keep going. And sometimes we got to pull back, and sometimes we can, continue to march forward. But the bigger part about it is how we manage it mentally. And that's what I want to dive into. I don't want to dive into macros or how many reps you do and sets you do. That's not what this is about. This is about, it's almost like a mental check-in, and then see if you can, pass down, some of that knowledge you have to the amateurs who are, trying to come up in the ranks, or even pros like me, because I ain't done nothing yet. I only got 1 pro debut. So, so man, I'm excited, man. So first and foremost, to check in with you mentally, how have you been?
Been great, man. At this point, I haven't competed yet this year. I actually withdrew from the Arnold earlier this year. But mentally, man, I'm in a great space. I'm more balanced now than I've ever been, and with the chaos that I've kind of worked through over the years, I've had some pretty good success. So I'm looking forward to seeing what being extremely mentally healthy looks like moving forward. So.
That's a beautiful thing. I know you posted something recently. It was like a back pic, but I know if you was like going up, I was like, he getting ready on. But again, it's social media, so we don't know where you're at that time. So
yeah, man. I mean, that photo I posted, man, was 5 days out from the Olympia. It was the front and the back side by side. That was 5 days out from the Olympia last year, and on pace to do something great, and just a long season, really, really, really long season that it took its toll toward the end. So Olympia wasn't my best showing of the year by far, but it comes with it. It's trial and error. You do what you can with what you have, and as long as you put your best foot forward, you have to live with that. And I can honestly say we put our best foot forward. Had a great year, but we just didn't really finish the way we wanted to. But we finished nonetheless. So.
All right, that's good. 1 of them wins was at my pro debut, by the way, brother. It's funny, man. Like, because you were my initial posing coach, and by the way, I'm coming back to you just so you know. But like, just seeing everyone who has like that. So there's stage experience, and then there's like the pro stage experience. I definitely felt a difference. And not that I was nervous at all, but it's just a vibe and an energy that you kind of carry. Like, yeah, I've been here before. It's time for me to clock in. And then you have, those are that I was like, yo, this is crazy. You got Spoon back here, you got George Brown back here, you got the dude who beat me at USA's for the overall back here. I'm like, yo, I'm pumping up, and I'm like, probably not even pumping up correctly because literally a deer in headlights. And again, it wasn't nervous. It was just a very honorable experience to kind of be there, with people that I follow, that I idolize in the sport, and just wanted to show gratitude without like making it seem kind of crazy, because it's like we are competing. Like, and I'll talk to y'all after the show, but yeah.
Look, man, it is. As long as you have fun with it, that's all that matters. It is, it's an expensive hobby, so you want to get something out of it. Winning always feels great. Taking a check home and getting reimbursed what you just spent
Man,
always feels great. And a win doesn't always do it, but it helps give some validation to your work. Um, but those moments, man, where you get to be around your Iron Brothers who you, like you said, have looked up to or share moments with, or kind of inspired you along the way. Take it in, get in. And for us, we were all there at some point in time. We all did to start where we are today. We had to work
absolutely.
our way up like everyone else. So, in those moments, man, I welcome them. Yeah, it's worked for me, but I'm still cognizant enough to know that, hey, the reason I do this is not for Antoine. It's for other
Mm,
people. So as much as that time I can give back without impeding my process, which isn't a very gruesome process, I try to give all
absolutely, man. I appreciate that. So tell me a little bit about, when you actually started and got into bodybuilding. Like, what made you get into such an intense sport?
that. Oh man. So in 2013, I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I now reside in Dallas, Texas, North Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2013, my former coach Ryan Hinton and I were training and getting ready. I was on pace to go play Canadian football,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working and just trying to figure out life. And uh, Ryan was like, "Hey, let's do this." And at the time, he showed me a picture of Ronnie Coleman, and I'm like, "That's not what I want to do. That is not what I want to do." You know, I may wear, a thong, but from a girl or something, but not on stage. You know what I'm
Not at
saying? It's like,
all.
no, not not at all, not in the public, right? He's like, no, man, it's not what it is. We're gonna be in a different division called men's physique.
Right,
And
right.
I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I could get with that. So we started training, and I found out that I had a baby boy on the way. And I quickly jumped out and became the hardworking dad, the provider.
Mm-hmm.
And the next year, Ryan pulls up and he's Mr. USA 2014. And I'm like, oh, no, no way. There's no way at all. Like, there's no way you did this, right? And so he started coaching me the next year. And in 2015, I did my first show and I got my butt handed to me, man, by guys that I should have never lost to.
Mm,
And it was Bayou Muscle 2015 in New Orleans, Louisiana. And
okay.
I was livid. So I came back to the next show. I was peeled out of my mind, dude. And it was a great show because it gave me motivation. I won the overall and
Nice, nice.
opening novice. And then I came back. The next show was Greater Gulf States. Greater Gulf States. That's the prestigious pro show from New Orleans. Jeremy
Mm.
Buendia won that show. Sadiq Hazardik has competed at that show. Uh, Ryan ended up
Heavy
winning.
hitters in there, huh?
Yeah, yeah. So it's been some names that come through that show. So I ended up winning the overall as an amateur. Jason Poston is the MC, and Ryan wins the pro division. So it was crazy, man. So Sandy's there
Okay.
and she's judging. At this time, I didn't know who Sandy was. I'm still into the sport.
Right.
So Sandy's like, hey, you got a great look. Just take your time, put some more size on. I think you'll do great in the sport. And Ryan's like, hey, I think we're going to go to USA's. I think he's got it. Sandy's like, nope, don't do it. Don't do it. I
Sandy is brutal.
go, brutally honest like this.
Uh,
I go to USA's in 2015, and man, I got seven. Zach
mm,
Savoy beat me. Zach Savoy beat me at USA's in 2015, and I was
ooh,
livid. I was livid. Oh man, I was so livid. So I came back. Well, took all this time. I was like, man, this stuff is rigged. It's crazy. I got a great physique. I look great, right? Pouting, and he gave me some time to calm down. So we took off. Literally, I didn't do anything from August to January.
okay.
February, Ryan calls me. He's like, hey man, look, let's do this. We come back and we win the overall as Junior USA's in 2016. The rest is history. So
Hey,
that was my start, man.
it's kind of crazy, man, that you've been on stage with those who are still in it and still have big names and making an impact and winning. To be honest with you, like you look at somebody like Sadiq came back last year, dominated the show he was in, and I think he took second in another one or something like that. And then
Mm-hmm.
Zach, he's constantly in the top five. Man, he was at my pro debut too. Now I think about it, but
It was good.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, oh yeah, man.
yeah,
And
and
then, that's
it's
crazy.
humbling. If I can be totally, totally honest, John, because I pride myself on being a student. I
Hmm.
pride myself on trying to make myself the dumbest person in the room. All right. I want to be the least knowledgeable person in the room. I want to be the least experienced person in the room. I
Hmm.
want to be the least successful person in the room because I know there's something for me to gain in that circle, right? So I came up with the OGs, man. When I say OGs, we're talking just years prior to my actually
Right,
hitting the
right.
circuit. But I
Mhm.
came up under the guidance of Raymond Edmonds, Andre Ferguson, George Brown, Jeremy Buendia, Ryan Terry, Sadiq Hassadik, Mark Anthony himself, Brandon Hendrickson, um, shoot. Um, Man, I mean, the list could go. And Antoine Williams,
Nice.
who's a phenomenal poser from back in the day.
All right.
Um, I mean, dude, the list goes on. Everybody that you see today, who paved the way, right? These are the guys that brought me up, the Omar Venturas of the world, Jeremy Potvins of the world. Like these guys that have literally laid the foundation for what men's physique was and still is are the guys that I came up with, and it meant everything to me to earn their respect, right?
Hmm.
So that's why I'm kind of in the position that I'm in. So,
That's awesome, man. For those of y'all who all these names he mentioned, these is all heavy hitters within the sport who've made a tremendous impact within the sport. I follow pretty much all of them. So, but yeah, they were your OGs, but now you are the OG in a sense. Like
yes.
I look at you as such. I remember the first time you messaged me, I was on my way to nationals in Miami. And I hit my coach. I was like, should I do it? And she was like, well, pray on it and think. And at this time, I feel like I'm still a novice. I was like 5 shows in, but this is going to be my first national show. And I was like, man, and then it's Instagram, like, man, this is random. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Go
Yeah.
up there. I take 6 out of 38, I believe it was, which wasn't bad,
No,
but it was
not
like,
even.
man, had I took that posing, that could have been a world of a difference. And that's what made me reach out to you like right after that. I was like, I have to work with somebody. I can't just wing it all the time in a sense. Like eventually you pick it up, but you have to be a student. So with you being an OG, talk to me a little bit about mentally and competitively the differences between when you were coming up and now within the sport.
Well, I'll say this, and it's kind of what I alluded to moments ago. You know, when I went to my first national show and I didn't get it, I blamed the world, right? Super
Mhm.
immature, and I forgot why I competed, like why I started competing. I
Right.
I started competing because I wanted to add value. I was a great trainer back home. I had coached several skills positions for three state championship teams back home in Louisiana. So I have three massive state championship rings for coaching, skills training.
Congratulations,
Um,
man.
no, I
For real.
appreciate it, man. But I felt like because I wasn't in that anymore, I wasn't adding value into it. And this
Mhm.
was an opportunity to use myself to add that value, right? I have a ton of knowledge about training and sports and nutrition and health and working out. How can I incorporate that to all into one and be an example, right? And live it. And I forgot about that for that split second. And going into 2016, I quickly remembered, like, hey, before you go to Junior USA's, man, realize like no matter what the outcome is, you're doing this to show other people a healthier way of living, how they can live their best lives, to be healthy, to be fit, have fun doing it, look your best, compete, right? You may not compete in sports anymore, um, but you can still compete in this, right? You may not carry a football or a basketball or a tennis racket or whatever, or hit your spikes on the ground, but you can still compete, right?
Absolutely.
And this was an opportunity for me to inspire those people from other backgrounds to be able to do it. And 2015 was a very selfish year. I ain't gonna lie, I was very arrogant. Um, I I got uncomfortable. It's like, hey, I was the I was a big fish on the amateur level in a small pond in Louisiana.
Mhm.
And then, I got a rude awakening, at that next level because the world is much bigger. And national shows back then were, like you say, 30, 35, 40 guys deep.
Mhm.
Now, you 15, 20, 22, and the classes were a little bit smaller. You didn't have as many, not smaller, but there weren't as many classes to get your pro
Right.
card. It was A, B, C, D, back then. And if you ain't get it, like that's just
They
was
got
it.
like a G now. It's
Yeah, they
crazy.
got they got elemental P these days,
Right.
man. So, yeah,
Bro.
pro cards like kernels of popcorn, but
I'm
it's
glad to
not
be
the.
short. I'll tell you that.
I'm telling you, man.
Man.
Um, but I had to get back to the reason I started competing, right?
Mhm.
I had to be leveled. I had to be grounded. And then I had to take it serious about the relationships that I had, that I was privileged to have access to.
Mhm.
These guys that were massively successful. Um,
Mhm.
so in that 2016, um, I went third, second in my first three shows and qualified for Olympia. Didn't even realize it. But I stayed humble, right?
Right.
Um, and then after that, I got a little complacent, got a little comfortable because I kind of made it right. It was the fastest pace to do it in Louisiana history because Ryan had competed for like 2 years before he did it.
Mhm.
Um, I made it my first year. Like it was just crazy, a bunch of stuff, right? And I got complacent, I got comfortable again. And then some things happened in life that kind of set me back personally, decisions
Mhm.
of my own, and life started to humble me a little bit more. So then I learned like, hey, it can be all good in bodybuilding, but then the personal may not be all good,
Man, listen.
right?
Yes.
So I was learning to balance those two. So then in 2017, um, I blessed to have won Tampa Pro, the 10th
Mhm.
anniversary of Tampa Pro. Well, 4 weeks before that, um, my dear cousin of mine passed. I mean, I'm talking about somebody who raised me, babysat me. I wasn't even in shape, dude. And he passed, and we were supposed to be getting ready for a show. And I told Ryan, like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do it.
Man.
And the next day, like Ryan let it sit, he let it ride. The next day, Ryan called me, and this is, I think, where my mental shifted.
Mm-hmm.
He said, um, "I understand the pain that you're going through, but you're gonna have to turn that and utilize it, turn it into something more, right?"
Mm-hmm.
He said, "I get it, but I need that win from Tampa Pro. I get it. I know you hurt me, right?
That's
I,
tough.
I need that win, right?" And you gotta realize where it comes from, John. I mean, you're an athlete. You're used to, the challenges, right? You used to the obstacles, right? It just comes in a different form. Bodybuilding affects life. Sports more so affect your mental, your physical. Those are the two dynamics that you really have right there, right?
Yes.
Bodybuilding affects your entire life. And I had it, I got the perspective, and that was really what kind of transformed things for me. In 2016, if we rewind a little bit, I actually did another show after I got second to Diogo Montenegro. I did another show.
Easy.
John Reese, bruh, let me tell you something. I placed dead last in an Atlanta show. Nobody even knows, dude. And I don't hide it. It just wasn't
Right, right.
publicized. I placed dead last at a show in Atlanta. There was a big flood back home.
Mm.
And I had no power. Dude, I was on the news for rescuing people out of their houses. Snakes swimming in front of. I'm terrified of snakes. Snakes swimming in front of me. Water moccasins.
Me too.
Power bed. Yeah, dude, it was crazy, right? And Ryan had to remind me that, hey, look at what you've been through, right? You mean to tell me you can go rescue people, you can not have food, but you can get on a flight and do something because you committed to it? You put your name on a piece of paper, you sign a contract, right? So because you put your name on a piece of paper, because you committed to something. That's what my grandmother always taught me. When you commit to something, when you start it, you better finish it.
Right.
So we committed to doing Tampa, and I was like, I got every reason to pull out. And Ryan was like, no, you got a reason to pull out, but why? That doesn't make it valid, right? Don't validate your excuses.
Mm.
And so we get through that. And 2018, they changed the rules. I actually ended up beating George Brown at the first show of the year, 2018, the City Limits in
Mm.
Waxahachie, Texas. The next four shows, I turned around and lost to the top three people at the show that I just won at
Wow.
in Nebraska. And then I placed ninth at Pittsburgh. And then I placed fourth at Sacramento. And then I went to New Orleans right after that and placed 14th. So it was like, you know what? So much is happening. So much has happened. I'm more bitter about the fact that I should have had these placings that I didn't really get, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned along the way through the years is that you have to be able to self-assess. You
Okay.
have to be able to self-assess. You have to look at what you've done, and although the result may not be the one, you may have not yielded the result that you wanted, your placings are never indicative of your hard work. So you can go win six shows, John. I'm telling you now, you can go win six shows, and it's still not going to be a testament to the amount of hard work you put into it. It's not.
So how do you cope with that? Because that to me sounds like a roller coaster, and I've been on it. We actually have similarities when it comes to tragedy in that aspect. Like when I started posing with you, my brother had just passed away. Well, it's my long lifetime friend. I'll call him my brother. So I ended up like right before Pittsburgh. But I got into bodybuilding due to fulfilling a promise from my mom, who had passed away in 2018. So
Mhm.
it's one of those things where it's just like, again, you gotta, when you start it, you gotta finish it. But like the ebbs and flows of it, like what strategies do you use to try to stay even kill when all this stuff is going on around you, because it doesn't stop. Like you said, bodybuilding, it affects your entire life. Like me and you had conversations about make sure you take care of the home front first. That will always stick in my head. Always. It was like our second posing session. And I was like, you're right. And ran into a brick wall right after that prep. I was like, yo, I need to make sure home is right. You see what I'm saying? So how do you manage those things? Like what do you do to, kind of stay even keel and mentally prepare for, for things that come along?
Let me ask you this, and I'm asking you a question, then I'm gonna answer. When you're
Mm-hmm.
going through those moments, you who is it that's in your circle?
My circle is airtight. I promise you, it's about five. It's about five
Okay.
people in. But even the circles who I go to second, it's my wife who I go to first because she's the backbone.
There you go, my man. I I'm a man of faith. I'm not
Yes,
gonna
sir.
force my religion on anybody. I'm not gonna
Hmm.
force my religion on anybody. If I tell you I'm gonna pray for you, I'm praying for you. I'm gonna stop right there and do it because I don't want it to get, put on the back burner. I don't want it to get forgotten. I'm gonna pray for you right then and there. And then
Hmm.
probably like 2, 3 days later, it's gonna run across my mind again. We get you another prayer in there, right? One of the things that I have to do is I have to pray. I have to ask for guidance. I have to pray for clarity. Okay. Um, and then I lean on my girl. I lean on Queen for everything. I've It's one of those things, man, where nobody knows you like she does.
Man.
And she's been there when things are great, when things are bad, when things are steady, when things are up and down, right? But nobody knows you like that woman does. Okay. And then you have to keep a circle of people around you that are going to hold you accountable. See, a lot of people have someone that's just like, oh yeah, man, that's cool, good job. They the gym buddies, right?
Hmm.
They're like, oh man, you look good, man. You gonna crush it, you gonna kill it. And yeah, it's all the positivity, right? But it's not really reality. Um, but they gonna tell you, yeah, go jump off that building. I guarantee you, your Kate gonna catch you. It's not reality, right? I need people that are gonna be transparent and honest with me. Not just when I'm doing good, not just when I'm doing great, but when things ain't really the best, right? And I know I need to improve. I kept a circle of people around me, man, that's gonna look at where I'm going,
Hmm.
um, how I'm working to get there, and they checked all of that. Like if you're in this circle with me, there is 1,000% accountability
Absolutely.
in what you do, what you say, how you think, what you watch, what you consume. I have people there that are literally helping me analyze everything that I do. Okay. And that is one of the biggest things that has kept me grounded in everything that I've been through as of late between prayer, faith, my true brotherhood and sisterhood, my family, right?
Hmm.
My family and friends, that core network of people. And then I fall back on those values that we came up with. Like we not young kids in the game where we don't know those old sayings or we don't remember the things that our grandparents went through or our parents went through and
We
those
live by them
those
now. I catch
exactly
myself saying
they
it all
build
the time.
character, right?
Yeah.
Those things that build character and discipline along the way, right? I fall back onto those things,
All
right?
the time, man.
The makings of a man, right? Um,
Hmm.
the makings of a leader. One of the greatest things that my brother has ever told me was that the greatest measure of a man is consistency. And what I found is that applies in so many other areas of my life. And then another brother of mine told me, he said, it's lay your pride down. You don't need to be right. You need to get it right.
Mm.
remove yourself from the equation and see it from a different perspective. Things like that, man. Those character building, those defining statements are things that kept me grounded. And you, like I said, you got to keep going back to it because, like me, you will lose sight along the way. I'm not here because I just did it all the right way. There's a lot of falls. We can talk about them all day. I'm telling you, I got more than you can imagine. But it's taking, like my mom would say, take the meat and throw away the bone.
Mm-hmm.
Realize there's a lesson in everything you do, everything you go through, every win, every loss. It's up to you to go back, self assess, take notes, look to improve, and reapproach.
I like that.
And
I like that.
those do things like that, man, have applied in so many ways in my life. And I think that's one of the things we're missing today in bodybuilding. People are getting into the sport without knowing what their real why is. And when you don't have a real why, when you're just doing it, let me say something, this don't pay the bills. And I can say that as someone who's
Cool.
blessed enough, I don't lose money on bodybuilding. Everything that I do within bodybuilding pays for bodybuilding. And when I go and win shows, that's actually a, I'm actually making money doing that.
Right.
So I'm blessed. I do not say that to brag in any way. A lot of people are not in those situations, and I don't have sponsors. So, but people are losing their way, John. They have lost their way, and they're joining this sport thinking that it's about attention, trying to play politics and all the rest of this stuff. And when life hits,
Yeah.
you think life is the inconvenience. Bodybuilding is the inconvenience. Life got to keep going. That stage gonna always be there. You got to stay true to your values, all right? And the reason you join the sport, and when the reason you join the sport is no longer valid, it's no
Gotta go.
longer true to you, it's time for you to go. Because if not, you will lose yourself in this sport. It is a very selfish sport. It will only take from you if you allow it to.
Man, I learned that this year. I'm not even gonna lie. And so I've been competing since 2019, which isn't, that long. But again, it was like, all right, pro debut came. All right, I need to go back up. Like, I need to redeem myself. My why has always been my mom, but I lost track of that, getting lost within, how I can bounce back from that loss, right? So it was one of those things where it's just like, all right, I'm about to find a way. I don't care how I'm gonna do it. And it's just like one of those things, like I actually had to sit back. I'm still about to finish my PhD. My wife's working constantly. My daughter's getting older. And then again, I wanted to start this podcast back in January. I got all these things going on, like personal training business, all this stuff. And I literally had to remind myself, like, why are you trying to put yourself in a position of inconvenience? Like, it's not going nowhere. You'll be ready when it's time to. Like, do you have to compete this year? No, in fact, you shouldn't. And you should focus more on your family. That doesn't make you any less of a person, man, woman. Like, you just got to focus on what you got to prioritize, what's important. And I learned that this year, I promise you.
Let me tell you, man. And I'm so glad that you learned it sooner than later
Mm,
because what the price is, you don't want to pay it. Take it from experience. I stepped away from bodybuilding for 3 years, 19, 20, 21, and came back into Arnold. At the tail end of 21 last year, I did 3 shows. Dead last
mhm,
at Chicago, third at Arizona, fifth at Texas Pro.
mhm.
So that was in 21, but I had been away at that time 3 years from the sport. But it was a test trial just to see, right? Ended up, getting sick, COVID after that, crazy, crazy, crazy. And coming back last year, the Arnold placed fourth, and it was a lot going on. As we kind of know with Ryan and his transition with all that craziness that happened,
Mhm.
21 and kind of the team dismantling itself. But it was just a lot going on. And 2 weeks before the Arnold, man, I buried my grandma.
Sorry.
that that is somebody that is a lot. That's a large part of my identity.
Mm, sorry.
And oh man, it's like we're in a much better space now, but it was so hard. It was so hard. Um, but that was I I I, I buried my sweetheart 2 weeks before the army. I still got up there and did what I had to do. And then after that, we did Boston and it wasn't a great showing. And then we did Sacramento and it wasn't a great showing. And at the same time, a lot of people don't know, man, I'm in property management. And I have the pleasure of serving as at that time, the operations manager for the largest high-rise condo association in the state of Texas. So
It's
I have
crazy.
620 units and over 1,400 residents that I'm accountable to every day. A staff of 47 people I'm accountable to every single day. Um, and it was so much going on. And then Ryan and I split, right? And life
Mhm.
was just still happening because I still had to do this massively important job, right?
Right.
I still had to cope with my grandmother passing. Um, I still had um, I still had so much that I was accountable for, right? And I had to go back and lean on those people and those things and those values, right? And that network and my prayer, and my kids even, man. And then we got with Mike. We ended up winning San Diego. Ended up winning um, Mexico, and got to the O, and it didn't fare out well. This year, dude, you wouldn't believe I was promoted to the assistant general manager in the midst of all this craziness from going on the last 2 years. But I'm promoted to the assistant general manager um, of still the largest condo association in the state of Texas. Um, I I bought my first house.
Oh, man, that's what I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
I bought my first house. Um, I started getting my kids' futures set up, like financially.
Hmm.
I'm now in a position looking to invest. I bought into a company that we'll make an announcement about another year and a half. That'll be a big contributor to the bodybuilding industry. So like but you gotta realize the stage is gonna always be there. It's going
Absolutely.
to always be there. And don't ever let bodybuilding trump life. It is not bodybuilding is the inconvenience to your life. Your family is not the inconvenience. Your job is not the inconvenience because those things you need. You don't need the stage. You know.
You couldn't have
Um,
said it any better, man. Seriously.
yeah. You gotta have some value when you come into it, John. If you don't have value coming in, you won't understand how to get value out of it. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes
If
perfect
you don't
sense.
have any substance coming into it, you won't understand how pull some substance out of it to get something valuable out of it to monetize it, right? Or to do whatever it is you have to do with. Dude, a lot of the relationships that I have this job because I was intelligent enough to utilize the relationships because this opportunity came from a former teammate and a
Mhm.
great friend of mine, which came from bodybuilding. Um, you you gotta get the value from it. If you don't, man, you're wasting so much more potential. There's enough dummies that just get on stage, right? We talk about it all the time. We want to change just for the division of they need to do this and it's for health reasons, right? And we say, hey, if everybody's get on the same page, we could do it, right? But
Right.
you know, there's always somebody that's willing to sell their soul for a little fame, for a little fortune, for a little time on IG to be on somebody's thread,
15
right?
seconds of fame,
There
boy.
you go. So stay true to it, um, and come with value, and you'll leave with more value than you could possibly imagine, bro.
Absolutely. Yeah, like the value aspect, it's again, it's how you perceive it. Like again, what is your why for getting into it? That should always be the sticking point. And then when that changes, the value changes, like you were saying. And if for a split second it was changing for me because like I turned pro, and then it's like, oh man, I get to be up here with, people I actually idolize. And then it's just like, man, I want to win. I want to win. Like I'm gonna win this check, or I'm gonna be covered on NPC News Online, or I get to actually talk to Tyler and Steve. Now, like all these stuff that's it's perks, but it's not the value. Like these are perks that come with it. And then you got to look at it like, okay, these are perks, but like are they intangible? You know what I mean? Like, so that I've been doing, again, the self-assessing, which it sounds like you do a lot of as far as like in your self-care aspect. And that was one thing I wanted to touch on too, besides like self-assessing and reassessing. What are a few other things you do as far as for self-care? Because again, like we spend hours in the gym tearing down our body. We put ourselves on stage to be subjectively judged. I don't think a lot of people take that into accountability. Like you're up there bare to be told, no, you're not up to par unless you win. And one out of however many there, it's only one winner. So like that could play on your mental. There was a point in time where it did for me too. It's just like, you know what? I volunteer for this. Like, so
Dude,
like,
it's the crazy thing. We volunteer, we pay a membership fee to tell somebody, hey, you may or may not be good enough. And then we're upset.
right.
There's no way this makes sense, right?
Part. It's so crazy. So again, like I could talk to you and actually, you know what, I was there. I get it. But it took a lot of like, okay, let me step away. Let me actually take a rest day. I don't need to work out 7 days a week. Let me go on a date night with my wife. Let me take my kid to the zoo. Let me, like, these are all things where it's just like, you know what, these are all, have to be all forms of self-care. Like it has to
Yeah.
be, to make sure my mental is right. So what are some go-to things for you that you can go to and say, okay, this is actually restoring my mental capacity right now?
I don't know. I hope you can't hear it right now. My daughter's over there on the sofa right now
Oh
watching
no, you're
me.
fine.
And
You're fine. I don't
over there
hear
watching
it.
me. My son is back home with my mom in Louisiana.
Hmm.
Um, you know, my lady's at work right now.
Hmm.
Um, my family is everything to me, and that is my grounding. Okay.
Yes,
But
yes.
another thing, John, and I will tell you, it's helped me so much is personal development books. I I had a lot of growing up to do, a lot, and I'm not the most mature person in the world, because I have some very immature moments. Okay, even at 32 years old,
We all have, man.
uh, even at 32 years old, I still have some very immature moments. But for example, when you're in the gym, John, look, and you
Mhm.
from the West Coast, and that E40 come on, it's a little different vibe, right? Versus
Yeah,
when you got the
whole different
E2.
vibe. And I'm a goofball as it is. Like, so
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I
So
get
it's different, right? Now, for
uh-huh.
me, when I hear, Kevin Gates, I hear Lil Boosie, I hear Whip, I'm a totally different spoon
Uh-huh.
than when I hear Eric Thomas come on, right?
Right.
Um, but what I started to do was, and you have to be cognizant of it. This is why the self-assessment is so important as the first step. You have to be careful what you're listening to, what you consume, because
Absolutely.
slowly but surely it manifests itself through you. I can tell you right now, the moment I turn on music from back home, I'm super tense and I'm kind of aggressive. I'm a little rowdy. I may let a word or two slip, right? Because it's
Mhm.
in me, right? I've fed. That's the food I fed my spirit for a minute.
Right.
Okay. But in those moments, where, I may put on some Andre 3000, right? I may have some Lupe going. I'm feeling good. I'm training hard, right? The vibes are totally different. But in those moments where, um, and that's not all the time, because there's times I'll listen to nothing in the gym, or there's times I'll listen to an audiobook, 360 leadership. Like, I mean, dude, um, the power of the subconscious mind, think and grow rich. Like, dude, I'll go through these things because what you feed yourself, you manifest it. But in those times where you're struggling with these things, John, catch yourself and find a book that counters that. Identify what it is you're struggling with and find some good literature. Okay. Not, I'm going to say this, I want to be cautious with how I say it. Not everything that's going to help you is going to always be spiritual. It's not going to always be biblical, right? Some
Mhm.
things are just going to be good information, just a different perspective, right? And I found that to be the case. I was like, yo, if it ain't the word, we can't hear it. Okay. Don't ain't nothing else gonna help me but the word. And
Right.
that's a great place to be. But there are some books that are written without, it's all faith based when it's written in love and great intention. But there are some books that are just written with positive perspective, and they teach you to speak life, and they teach you to speak positively about yourself. They teach you to think positively. They
Mhm.
teach you to do better, with yourself and for your loved ones, etc. And it's you've got to you've got to catch those things early on and be transparent with yourself and watch how quickly you start to shift out of those things, right? Because
Right.
just as much as you're going back into, because you can't, until you pass the test, you're in the test. And if you fail the test, you got to retake it again. So you might as well keep feeding yourself things that are going to help you with the test until you pass it. And then realize there's going to be another level for the same test, new level,
Right.
new devil, just a different version of the test. So keep feeding yourself because there's going to be something more that you need that you may have missed the last time that's going to help you get stronger for it. So we ask for patients all the time. Our kid may be testing us today, and yeah, you can deal with it at home, but you may beat that. But then somebody else can test you at work, but you got to deal with that because that's actually level three, because that determines whether or not you're gonna be able to provide for your family.
Man.
You see what I'm saying? So you got
Absolutely.
to keep feeding yourself because we're asking for patience, we're asking for a breakthrough, we're asking for help, we're asking for healing, we're asking for a financial blessing, et cetera, et cetera. And the financial blessing may very well just be financial literacy, right? The things you're struggling with, it could be just a matter of perspective. And
Mhm.
then you may pray for things or ask or look for things to change out there that when you take a step back, self assess, and are looking to address yourself about it first, it may be something that you change for yourself that changes your perspective, which changes your situation.
Gotcha.
I
It's
don't want to
it's
go down that
interesting you
road, but
said no. It's interesting you said that about like books because I'm a big component of music, especially during cardio. Music helps me get through cardio so much more efficient, I guess, or I don't feel it as much, I guess.
yeah,
But
I agree.
I actually started getting more into audiobooks, and I was reading this book called The Mountain Is You, pretty much meaning like, look, you need to figure out these skills to learn how to get out of your own way because you're the mountain, like you're trying to reach this mountaintop or you're trying to get over the mountaintop, but really it's you. Like you got to learn how to get out of your way. So it's interesting you said that because I just started doing this earlier this year, where less music, more audiobooks, whether I'm driving or cardio, whatever the case is. So it's interesting you say that, and I have to do that too because music is too influential for me. It depends on
Yeah.
what's coming through
I'm telling you,
whatever
hey, it
I
will
have fun.
determine how your day will go.
Yes, all the time. Funny story. Of course, like my wife knows this. Like me and my older brother, like we're not on good terms, but eventually he was over here. And that whole day, I'm listening to NWA. I'm listening to the whole day. I'm listening to King. I'm listening to all kind of crazy stuff, mumbling every word. And it's just like I get in my garage and I'm like, yo, you gotta chill. You are like on 10 right now.
Yeah.
And you can have this energy at my niece's, which is his daughter's baby shower, and it's at my house. Like, you got to chill. So I again sat in the car, prayed about it. Actually went to go see one of my good friends, Andrew. He owns a shoe store, good company. He's a pastor, and I talked to him, and I could just feel it. I didn't even talk to him about this, but I could just feel it, just leaving my body. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I needed to come here. And wife was calling me like, are you sure you're coming back? Yes, I'm coming back. Yes, I'm good. Like,
look, I'll turn on some cafe jazz. If I can't get a book, I'll turn on some cafe jazz and just sit there for a minute. I'm
man,
telling you, look, just find things to counter it. We gotta counter those thoughts, those feelings, right? And it's those loving relationships, or those things, those acts of love, or those things that are done with that loving, passionate intent that counter it every single time. The relationship you have with Andrew is a loving relationship, but you didn't need to really address the situation. You just needed to be in the presence, right?
that's it. That was it.
Like, that was it. And it did what it was supposed to do. But you were able to self-assess. I think if we would just slow down, the world is fast enough. The world is fast enough. Slow it down for you to be able to digest what you need, so that you can be at a better state.
Absolutely. Man, I appreciate the wisdom, brother. I'm gonna hit you with 3 or 4 quick hitters and I get you out of here. Um, what is one thing you would tell the amateurs coming up as far as how to have longevity in the sport?
It's a two-part equation or two-part response. Be true to your why,
Mhm.
and that your why should be bigger than you, um, and that you never lose, you always learn. But it's up to you to figure out what you learned. Even in a win, there's always something to learn.
Absolutely. I like that. I like that. Besides the Olympia, name one show you would love to win.
Dubai Pro.
Why?
I'm
You don't mind me
everybody's.
asking.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Every Dubai or IHF, the India Health Festival.
Okay.
Um, one of those two. Everybody's clamoring for these U.S. shows, and I get it. That's where our judges are. That's where Tyler and the Steves are, the Garys, right? The Jack Tones, the Beckys, right? Love them all. I love the Sandys. I love them all. Great rapport with all of them. But where people are really wanting to gain more perspective and get some real value in those other countries, man. It's not here. These people, like, they really want to do this, right? And their sacrifices are not ours. They have way greater sacrifices than we do.
Man.
Um, what
Yeah.
it takes for them to travel, what it takes for them to have food, what it takes for them to, have certain resources available to them. We don't, we couldn't possibly understand that, which is why I'm so big on going to. Why I do a lot of work in Mexico. In fact, I'll be there in 3 weeks. Um,
Nice. Nice. Nice.
so I'm big on going to those countries, man, where I can just love on people and they really appreciate what it is we do and how we do it and when we invest that time.
Mhm.
Because when I go do these things, dude, nobody's paying for these flights. I'm investing my time, I'm investing my money into these people. And when I tell you, I've never felt a greater appreciation for it all, John, man, they're so sincere. They're so sincere.
That's amazing, man.
So I think as my intent is to always add value, I think my value could be maximized. My potential of adding value could not only be increased, if not maximized in those other countries.
All right. I like that. And then speaking of value, again, like I want to provide a deeper, intellect on the mental side of what we do and, just what we go through as athletes. Like I don't want people to continue to like what sparked this actually was like when a lot of us go live and all I see is people in there asking, hey, how much cardio are you doing? Hey, how much macros are you eating? Hey, and I'm like, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing cardio, so I'm watching somebody's like, did y'all ever think to ask him like, is he okay?
Yeah,
Like, so
yeah.
that's
How
what
you doing?
sparked this. Like, how are you doing? But
Yeah.
that's what sparked this whole thing. So the question is, if you could see someone on here that can add value to this dialogue, this conversation to help not only just the pros, the amateurs coming up, because I really want to touch them as well. Because I just came from there and I wish I had something like this to kind of look to and listen to. So if you could put someone on this podcast for the next episode, like who would you suggest?
Ooh, I'm going, when I say this person, they're going, it's gonna come across like, yo, why? My man is wild, right? I'm the calm person. Um, I'm I think I'm the one who, articulates things in the most simplistic forms, right? Um, this person is more straightforward than any person we have ever met. We all know I'm Andre Ferguson. And the reason I say Andre Ferguson is because Dre has a lot of experience, a lot
Yes.
of perspective, and he's lived at the top for so long. And even though he doesn't have an Olympia title, you still mark him as arguably the greatest men's physique competitor of all time.
Absolutely. And when he's on, he's
Because,
on. I don't care what nobody
yeah,
says.
and when he's not on, he's still knocking heads.
Yep.
So, Dre has been on the business side of this. Dre has been
Mm,
on the amateur, the the athlete side of it, the pro side of it. Um, I think if people would stop trying to attack the guy at the top of the hill and ask him how he got there,
right.
I think we would learn so much more than I already know about the guy. I don't know him on an ultra personal level, but I do know him.
Hmm.
And Andre Ferguson is someone who has so much value. When I tell you that is literally one of the most intelligent men you will ever meet in this sport, be, beyond intelligent. If I can go for a solid second, if that's cool,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
men's physique pro, IFBB pro, NPC, and IFBB pro judge Demarcus Harris.
Hey,
Um,
you
Demarcus
you actually in my archives right now. I got coaches and judges I was thinking about. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Demarcus turned pro a couple of years ago, did a couple of pro shows, has a great look for the division. But Demarcus is massively, massively successful personally and professionally,
Mm,
and found value in bodybuilding. Has added value to tons of other people in bodybuilding. His resume may not speak to it, but the guy is very, very, very impactful. And I think Demarcus holds a lot of perspective when it comes to competing and bodybuilding and life balance.
Mm.
That is one of my mentors.
Oh yeah, we
One
gotta
of
talk
my
to him. Yes.
Yes, I think those two. DeMarcus is very is even calmer than I am, but very well spoken,
Mm-hmm.
highly educated. Um, and I think he's someone that could really add some extreme value to our audience.
Man, I appreciate that. Well, I'm gonna ask that you help get these brothers on, sir.
Hey, I'm on it. I'm on it.
Absolutely. Man,
I'm on
well,
it.
this is my guy, Antoine Weatherspoon. Man, appreciate the time, the dialogue, the wisdom, everything that you provided to this podcast, man. It was very insightful to see, where you're at and, you're mentally being in shape is what I would call it right now. And a lot of people can learn a lot from you, including me, and I'm going to continue to, and I hope that's okay.
Yeah, man.
And holla inside the mind. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Honored to be here.
I'll
Have the best
end
day.
it. Yes, sir. I end it right now.